If you're looking at buying or selling an apartment condo in Edmonton, then you're going to want to watch this video because I'm doing a deep dive on exactly what's going on in the apartment market in the Edmonton area. This is part 3 of 3 for videos. I did one on single detached homes, another one on townhouse condos, and this is the third one that's on apartment condos. So if you're looking at townhouses or detached homes, I'll put the links to those videos you can check out as well. And today we're going to be focusing on apartments. This data is as of February 25th. So by the time you're seeing this video, obviously it would have changed a little bit, but this should give you a really good idea on what's going on in the apartment condo market, because it's quite a bit different than what's going on in the detached home market and the townhouse market. This is good general information to kind of tell you how the market's doing as a whole, but obviously your situation is going to be unique and different from the general overall market. So depending on what price point you're looking at buying in or selling in, including what neighborhoods and the age of the condos, even the specific buildings makes a difference. So if you're looking at making a move in the condo apartment market, you should reach out to me directly. That's where I can give you the best advice. And you can reach me at 780-819-5508. You can either call me or shoot me a text. And of course, you can always email me at trevor@trevortardif.com, or you can go to booktrevornow.com and select a time on my calendar, and then I will call you. So without further ado, we'll get into the data here. So the apartment market has been moving a lot slower than townhouses and detached homes, but I'm starting to see some positive signs here that'll make some sellers at least a little bit excited. There's still a ton of inventory, but sales are starting to pick up a little bit. So let's take a look at the data and go from there. So as of right now, there's 1,327 apartment condos that are active in the market in Edmonton, and there's currently 122 pending sales. So we're basically going to be looking at the number of new listings, the number of new sales, and the sales to new listings ratio over the past 7 days, the last 2 weeks, and the last 30 days. So I'm breaking it up into 3 categories just to see, what's been going on in the market just in the last 7 days, what's been going on in the last 2 weeks, and then the last 30 days, and just to kind of see if we're seeing any market shifts just in those time frames. It can be really useful to just kind of keep an eye on the market, because the market can shift in a matter of days sometimes. So let's take a look. In the last 7 days, there have been 123 new listings. Over the last 2 weeks, there was 264 new listings. And over the last 30 days, there's 587 new listings. Now, if we go over to sales, there was 39 sales in the last 7 days, 98 sales in the last 2 weeks, and 199 sales in the last 30 days. So if we look at the sales to new listings ratio over the last 7 days, that ends up being 31.7%. The last 2 weeks, we're at 37.1%. And over the last 30 days, we were at 33.9%. Okay, so what do these numbers mean? So the sales to new listings ratio, we're actually just taking the number of sales and dividing that into the number of new listings. So when we look at the last 7 days, I'm just taking 39 and dividing that into 123, and that's telling us that 31.7% of the new listings have sold essentially in that time frame. Now 7 days is a very tight time frame, so you're going to see the most variance in that number. Even 2 weeks is pretty tight too. Last 30 days, we're sitting at 33.9%. Now if you watched my other video on detached homes, and then on townhouse condos, we were seeing really high numbers, like over 70%, sometimes over 80% in the detached homes, sales to new listing ratio, and then over 50% for townhouse condos. So both of those markets, especially detached homes, are in a seller's market, whereas townhouses are just on the cusp of basically becoming a seller's market. Whereas when we look at the apartment condos here in the 30s, it's a much more balanced market, and maybe sort of more in the buyer's side, where we're getting close to being in a more balanced market for apartment condos. Another thing that I like to look at here is what's the absorption rate. So to calculate the absorption rate, what we have to do is essentially take the number of sales over a given period of time. And so I'll be looking at over the last 30 days, we had 199 sales. So I'm going to be assuming that we're going to keep pace with that, so that over the next 30 days, we'll also have 199 sales. And the way you calculate the absorption rate is by dividing that into the number of active listings, which is the 1327. So in order to calculate that, we take 199 and divide it into 1327, and we end up with an absorption rate 14.99%. So basically 15%. And the flip side of that, you can also calculate the months of supply, or how many months of inventory you have, and you just take the same numbers, but instead of dividing it that way, you would take 1327 divided by 199. And this is basically just trying to calculate, if there was no new listings coming on the market, how long would it take us to sell all the remaining inventory? Both of those calculations are essentially doing that. The absorption rate saying 15% of the inventory is being absorbed per month, assuming no more new inventory. And the months of inventory is just looking at putting that into a number of months. So the months of inventory, so for the months of supply, if we look at the stat that way, we're at 6.67 months of supply. So these numbers, I think, are starting to look a little bit better for apartment condos. We're still a little bit more on the buyer side for sure, but as we get closer to that 5 months of inventory, we're starting to get into a more balanced market. So things are looking good or starting to look good for people that are looking to sell their apartment condos. If you're looking to buy apartment condos, it's still a really good time. You're still in a very good negotiating position. There's lots of inventory to choose from, and you don't really have to worry about getting into multiple offers very often like you would with detached homes and more so townhouse condos. So let's look at a couple other things here. So we've looked at the absorption rate. Now the next thing I want to look at is the sold price to list price ratio. So this is to help you basically figure out like what percentage of list price are homes selling for. Obviously, we're just going to be looking at average numbers here, so it doesn't mean you can just take this percentage and go and apply it to any home and assume that's what you should get it for. But it kind of gives you an idea on kind of what's going on in the market, if you have to pay list price or a little under or a lot under or maybe a little over, that kind of thing. So it can be useful to see which way it's going over time, and that'll help to tell you, okay, are we going more in the direction of it becoming a more balanced or seller's market, or are we going the opposite direction? So we'll look at the same thing here over the last 7 days. 3 of 39 apartment condos that sold in the last 7 days sold at list price or higher. So not too many of them were selling at list price or higher, and they sold for an average of 92% of the original list price. Now, if we look at the last 2 weeks, 9 of 98 apartment condos that sold at list price or higher, and they sold for an average of 94% of original list price. And if we look at the last 30 days, 18 of 199 sales sold at list price or higher for an average of 92% of original list price. So much different picture than what we saw in detached homes sitting at 99%. And I think the townhouse condos might have been 98%. Don't quote me on that. You can go check the video. But much different picture here. It shows there's more negotiating room, essentially, on apartment condos. Now, the last thing that I wanted to look at is the median days on market. But before we do that, again, if you'd like to get some more specific advice, you should hop on a strategy call with me, and I'll be able to give you specific advice based on the neighborhoods you're looking in, your price point, and what your overall goals and plan are. And I can give you specific advice that is catered to your unique situation. And the best way to do that is to go to booktrevornow.com, and you can select a time on my calendar, and then I'll call you. But if you'd prefer, you can always call me or text me directly at 780-819-5508, or email me at trevor@trevortardif.com. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to look at was the median days on market. So with this, right now we're looking at the median days on market instead of the average. The average would just take the average, whereas the median is that sort of midpoint. So if the median ends up being 30 days, that means half of the apartments that sold in that time frame sold for 30 days or less. So that's that mid number, and then half were over. So it can be a nice statistic to look at. So if we look at the last 7 days, we were sitting at the median of 40 days. It's definitely looking a lot better for condos. Last 2 weeks, we had 44 days. And last 30 days, we had 55 days. So that's kind of interesting that this number appears to be dropping. Time will tell if this continues, but basically just in taking all the apartments that sold in the last 30 days and seeing a median of 55 and then going to 44 in the last 2 weeks and then 40 in the last 7 days, that's certainly a trend down in terms of how long it's taking half the apartments to sell. So that's really interesting. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the apartment market here from now on, and I'll keep making videos like this. And again, if you wanted to check out the other detached home or townhouse update that I do a deep dive similar to this, then make sure to check out those on my YouTube channel. But yeah, I hope this was useful to you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll probably be doing another video here where I'll look at the average prices for detached homes, apartment condos, and townhouses, and some of the different market segments in there, and show you guys what's been happening in there. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you like these videos and you're getting value out of it. And hit that notification bell too, and that way you never miss a new video. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.